Okay, so in Hungary, the only relevant form of radicalization is right-wing extremism, and its major manifestations are xenophobia and homophobia. As to xenophobia, the two major issues that are mentioned in the report are attacks against the Roma and the migrants. So anti-Roma sentiments are widespread in the society anyway, but what happened between July 2008 and August 2009, it was something never happened before or after, at least not since the war. So a group of four, well, they were initially three, and then the fourth member joined later. The kids killed 6 people, including a child, at 9 locations. These were typically segregated villages in the middle of nowhere, and their method was to set the building on fire, and they started shooting at the people escaping. As to anti-immigration, so the growing anti-immigrant sentiments is mainly related to and took off the refugee crisis in 2015. This is when the government launched, probably you know, obviously, its anti-immigrant campaign, that migrants are criminals, terrorists, rapists, you name it. And this is when the mayor of the village of Árzshamet at the Serbian border, Toroczkai, who is also a prominent member of the far right in Hungary, organized a militia. So he calls them rangers because it's a legal category, but essentially they are tasked with chasing migrants in the area and pushing them back to the other side of the fence. So this is ongoing since, as we speak, since 2014. And finally, as to homophobia, the far right from scratch, they disrupted Budapest Pride and abused verbal and physically the participants. So Budahasi, their leader, it's another prominent member of the far right in Hungary. It was also charged with throwing Molotov cocktails at a gay bar and a sauna. He got away with this, by the way. And recently, he and his crew disrupt events for LGBTQ people, or organized by or for LGBTQ people. In Budapest, they don't use actual physical violence anymore. They just turn up and in a group and intimidate the people, chanting anti-gay slogans, and essentially sabotage the event. So now, obviously, it all didn't start with the Fidesz, but in the past 6 years, Orban has essentially mainstreamed xenophobia and now homophobia, which become the dominant themes in not only in political discourse, but in public policy. So you can't hear Fidesz politicians talk about anything really without mentioning the name of George Soros at least 3 times. So this is why we say that the Fidesz monopolized the far right in Hungary. So people like Budahasi and Toroczkai has nothing left to do, just praise the government for its policy decisions, which they actually do on their YouTube channels. And it's easy task. It was easy task for the Fidesz because the vast majority of the Hungarian media it's pro-government, and actually pro-government is not really a good term here because it's owned by people in close to Fidesz, so from Orban's circle. So media outlets was hijacked one by one in the past 10 years. And there is zero criticism of Orban. If there is a demonstration against the government, it's just simply not in the news. And why I put police there, so why I categorize police as an agent, is because so it's different from the German case in that there is no, as to my knowledge, like a neo-Nazi group or unit within the organization, but they are, but it's a top-down, super centralized organization in Hungary, literally manually controlled by the interior minister, who is completely loyal to Orban. So they were there when they were needed in the refugee crisis. And when the police was asked about Toroczkai's migrant hunting, they were really said there is nothing to see here, and also Budahasi, whatever he does in the presence of the police. So they turn up, they go there, but they do nothing. Actually, Oh, it's 5 minutes. Oh my God. So can I have the second slide, please? So the first three quotations, it's from the Roma murderers. So all the eye gap elements were clearly present in their case. Polarization between the Roma and the non-Roma was full on by the far right at that time. And the media also picked up some serious crimes committed by people with Roma background. So there was a feeling of grievance. The problem was not the crime, but obviously that the perpetrator was a Roma. So it's never a big issue if a Hungarian white man slaughters his family. It's always just the Roma. So and there was an element of injustice and alienation, because the Jobbik successfully linked anti-Roma and anti-establishment sentiments. So not only did the far right blame the socialist government for economic situation at that time, and that the government suppressed the 2006 their revolution, they called it revolution, but also problematized that they didn't step up against the Roma who terrorized the Hungarians. So if you read the Budahasi quotation, you might actually wonder if there is some serious issue with the mental health of this person, but actually people buy into this. So it's quasi identical to the government's narrative about gay who ridicule traditional family models and turn our children into gay. So this is why it was so important to write the mother is a woman and the father is a man into the constitution lately. And finally, Torodzkai, I think it was a Facebook post. He is referring here to as traitors to NGOs. Is it 5 minutes? Can I go on or? Anyway, so this is it's totally identical to the Fidesz narratives who blame George Soros for everything, really unsettling millions of migrants in Europe. And then, can I have the last one, please? The last slide. So just really quickly. So what I think is what is interesting to me is to look into maybe that how come that the Fidesz managed to remain so popular when among the voters, when there is a serious contradiction between what they do and their narrative. So there is a blog, I think, today coming out on that. You will see later. So how come that within the group, within Fidesz voters, there's deviation from group norms, and still they're so popular? So how it relates to group cohesion and the credibility of Orban. And on the police, it's mainly going to come out in the next report, 3.2. But we found that they were one of the major facilitating factors. So, and there is literally no research done on the police in Hungary about what police officers think about the policing purposes, what their role, what is the institutional racism situation, about hate crime awareness and human rights culture. There's zero research in Hungary on that. So that would be me. And sorry, it's like 8 minutes.